time without my mic on. Well, this is
John woke to
disappointing.
the shrill cry of his alarm clock and lay there,
The thing
rigid,
had a
his
ring on
usual morning condition. But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight. A weight that had nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was
Wait, I think I need subtitles. Oh! I don't like this bit. Oh, this is the most disgusting game I've ever played in my life. I continued it. I'm in the game. Why am I doing this again? Oh, what are those seeds? Ew. Ooh. Why would you do that? Why would you say that? Oh, he has a ring on his. This is the most disgusting
John
shit I've ever
woke to
seen
the
in my
shrill
entire
cry
life.
of his alarm clock and lay there, rigid, his
The most
usual
disgusting
morning
game for
condition.
sure.
But there was another reason John couldn't get out of bed. It was the weight.
What's with the
A
tissue
weight
papers,
that had
please?
nothing to do with his muscles or fat or sweaty blankets. John was weighed down by a piece of paper. The invitation to his high school reunion. From across the years, the words he'd heard in the schoolyard were
I
still
just
clear.
turned the subtitles off on. What the hell is happening?
You're a loser. No one will ever love you.
You talking about me? Shut. Whoa.
John needed to shower and wash off the sweaty stink of desperate sadness.
Oh. Brush teeth. How do I brush teeth? Oh, please don't tell me. Please. The way it moved. How get clean? How? What the hell am I doing with my life, dog? Oh. Can you stop with that, please? I don't like that.
John threw on an outfit. He didn't feel comfortable wandering around his home naked. John had 3 months until the reunion to turn his life around. First, he needed to clean up. The only reason he'd ordered so much takeout was because Delilah, the delivery peen, made John feel butterflies in his testicles.
Oh, yeah. Oh. Wow. That was a long one. Get that out of me. Ooh. Stop with that. Can you not? Nope, 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 nope. Ooh. Ooh. Move that thing out. Get that out of me. How do I do that? Can you scoop it out? Like what? What the hell is that? Get it out.
John's head was on fire. He seemed surprised. He shouldn't have been.
Oh. How do I clean the dishes? Okay, just push them in. Well, it's not happening. It's not happening. So what do I do? There's nothing in my hands. What? Never mind.
John called it his study,
Please don't tell
but
me.
it was basically for games and porn. Mostly porn.
Oh. Oh. I'm out.
John had left his apartment late, but if he caught the express bus, he might make it to work on time. John didn't really like his job, but it had 2 qualities in its favor. 1, he could pay his rent, and 2, Barbara. Currently John's top candidate for his reunion date.
So who's Barbara? Are those little birds? Wow. Did I just eat a bird? Oh. I just stuffed a bird inside.
John noticed a moderately attractive peen waiting at the stop.
Moderately attractive bean. Oh.
He was tempted to talk to her. He tried to start a conversation and did not get the reaction he'd hoped for. It was probably because he was a minimum wage peen. She could probably sense it.
Minimum wage bean.
The
What is
office
my life?
hummed with cold fluorescent lighting. The air was cold and stale, lifeless. How long had John worked here? long enough to deserve better.
Excuse me? Dog, move.
John was late, but he felt daring. He could sneak into the office through the archives, or he could stroll through the front entrance with enough confidence to bluff his boss. John decided to creep in through the archives.
Move.
Despite the obvious flaws, John thought it was a good plan and
Is
not
that
a
a
recipe
dead
for humiliation.
Person? A dead being, I guess. What the hell? Oh. Ugh.
Everyone else was hard at work, grinding away. John might actually get away with this.
Oh,
The
look at
boss.
the thing.
He homed in on John, deluging him with spit and buzzwords. The boss
Ma'am,
ran
that is
out of
not
synonyms for John's failings and gave him an ultimatum. Barbara would definitely not be interested in dating John if he was unemployed. He had to get to the quality assurance department.
Okay.
There might be a faulty dildo just waiting to cost the company millions in lawsuits. John would have to test them all. Every atom of John's rectum began to vibrate with the frequencies of pure pleasure. His orifice was a paradise. This vibrator would end all wars. It was good.
No, please.
That one was good too. The Prostate Pounder X900 series, the most advanced vibrator on the market. Sweet mother of no, John, that's too much pleasure for one anus to handle.
Oh. Why is this one, the brown one, so detailed?
John's butt hurt, but his heart was proud. If that vibe had gotten out into the world, it could have injured a customer as badly as it had ravaged his anus. The boss arrived and congratulated John on taking one for the team and jumping on the hand grenade, or in this case, putting it up his butt. John was having trouble following the conversation because he was quite high on suppository painkillers. And then the boss said it. Promotion. Finally, the company was recognizing John's hard work and ignoring his minor faults like lack of talent, constant lateness, and flatulence.
And flatulence?
John's new office smelt like polished wood and success.
He's got
John's
Band-Aid on his
success.
phone.
Sam dropped by. He'd heard John had been hurt. John said he was fine. He wasn't a softie to complain about a mildly ruptured rectum.
Why is
Besides,
Sam
he had a promotion to celebrate.
bleeding?
John had met Sam in college during a sports ball game. He'd given him some stiff competition.
Nope. Nope. Mine. Nope. Yep. No. Get off, get off, get off. Yep. No. Get it out. Nope.
Even when he won, Sam never acted like he was better than John.
How nice of him.
They'd started at Flesh Corp product testing together. Nothing builds a friendship like a long day of dildo mounting.
Yeah. Sounds about right.
Yes, John had known Sam for a while. But John couldn't hang out with Sam. He had a reunion to prepare for.
Why is
He was going out with Barbara tonight. He just had to ask her. Everyone was quiet, listening to the presentation. A good moment for John to ask Barbara out.
Where the hell is Barbara?
Warmer. John was working his way to Barbara.
Is it the one who's asleep?
Barbara agreed. Well, she nodded. Sort of. Things were really going John's way. John tried to act as suave as possible and listen to Barbara talk business.
Wow.
He didn't want to blow his chances at long-term love and short-term sex. Barbara began to talk about monthly feedback figures, and John started to zone out, imagining him and Barbara at the reunion, a power couple. She would make his classmates sick with envy, if he could get her to tone down the boring chatter. John's balls were gripped by certainty. Barbara was the perfect date for the reunion. John thought he would impress Barbara by going behind the bar and showing the bartender a thing or two. Despite Barbara's protests that it was unnecessary, John knew that a true gentleman should follow her home. He was excited. There was still 3 months until the reunion, and he'd already landed his perfect date. All he had to do was seal the deal.
Oh. Hello. What the hell is
Barbara
that?
thanked John for the evening and politely did not invite him inside for coffee or sex, even though John had dropped some pretty obvious hints he'd be into both, or just the sex.
Ooh.
The door slammed on John's hopes. He didn't understand. He'd laughed at all Barbara's pie chart jokes. He'd listened to her boring stories. John began the lonely walk home, thoughts tumbling like shoes in a dryer. He had done everything wrong.
Where is my home?
Barbara had led him on just to humiliate him. John felt empty. How could he get love?
John is me.
He felt like he was missing something, some key to attracting sex. But John was shooting blanks. What did Peens want?
Lube, I guess. I don't know.
Then it hit John out of nowhere. Stuff. He had the success. He just needed to show it off. But where was John going to get all the stuff he wanted? John needed a sign. A new day, a new John. He waited outside his local buttload store for it to open, eager to spend his promotion bonus on stuff. The best way to impress women. There's nothing like a rectum full of money to make a peen feel like a man.
There's nothing like... Okay, what the hell? Dude, let me... Never mind.
Suddenly it occurred to John that he was going to make a lot of choices. And every one of those choices would tell the world who he was. Delicious. What would a date think when they sat in John's home? Comfort or style? John went with comfort. Plus, it matched the couch he already had.
It wasn't my choice.
John weighed up all the differences, but this was a tough choice. Something told John this was the TV for him. John chose the extremely, obviously bad TV.
So how do I know this bad? It's the same price. Let's go digital.
John realized that it was only 2 months and 29 days until the reunion. Time flies. Cactus or rose? Was John a rugged hero or a romantic poet? If John grew his own flowers, then he'd save on romantic gestures in the long run.
A casket? What?
There was nothing John could take with him to the grave.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Except his coffin. Death is inevitable. Style is not. John liked to get his pizza delivered. That way he could see Delilah, the delivery peen. She always made him smile. John knew that Delilah thought pineapple on pizza was an abomination. What bedding would Delilah prefer? John couldn't help wondering.
Hey there, Delilah.
Regular sheets, just like the regular pizzas he regularly ordered. Devoid of any sense of style, buying new clothes would be John's toughest challenge. John felt sharp and also like a phony. John might want to take the hem up a bit. Very spunk rock. A nice fit, but could John pull off the colour?
Let's go gentlemanly. Oh,
John decided to go with the outfit. Music, the food of love. Should John go retro sophisticated or just retro? John was sure he could just pirate extra records. Every can was made of metal, pulled from the bones of the earth, wrestled to the surface and smelted in roaring furnaces. All so John could buy peas preserved in salty water and stick them up his butt.
I don't need all the details, man.
John's new purchases were on the way to his apartment. All he had to do was invite a date over. One look at all his stuff and they'd be overwhelmed with sexual desire. John felt proud and also hungry. It gave him an idea. He should invite Delilah over for dinner.
Hey there, Delilah.
John was excited.
Well, that's
Delilah
me.
was on her way. He just needed to set the mood to romance.
Ouch, 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 ouch. Ugh.
John hoped she didn't have allergies. That must be Delilah at the door. The door opened and there was Delilah.
Hello.
John gulped down his nerves and invited her in. John could tell that Delilah was impressed by his stuff. It was time to crank up the mood to seduction. John wanted to offer Delilah wine, but he'd already popped his cork. Delilah started looking as nervous as John felt. He assumed it was because she was shy too. They really were compatible. Of course, at the reunion, he couldn't mention Delilah was a delivery peen. That would be embarrassing. Delilah suddenly headed for the door. John hadn't even paid. And just like that, John was alone again. Delilah hadn't even looked at his stuff.
Aw.
The rejection burned. John felt insignificant. He had everything he wanted. The job, the money, the stuff. So much stuff. He wanted to destroy it. Shove it into the abyss. Stupid records. His stuff didn't matter. He was a shaft in the machine. A lonely piston pumping away like all the others in his rigid place. Die, couch! Nothing special about him. Why should Delilah or Barbara or any other peen be interested in dating him? He was just like everyone else and they could tell. John wanted to be special, but he had to face the numb truth. He wasn't. And all the money and stuff he'd ever accumulate wouldn't change that. He thought it would make him unique, but it just made him more like everyone else. He should leave it all. Fuck off, inanimate objects. Get out of this little town and go on an adventure. See the world. Fuck you, fridge. He was a boring corporate drone, but he didn't have to be. Take that, TV. He could be a traveler, exploring jungles and climbing mountains. He could visit the wonders of the world and get his picture taken. Like Peony Island, the unspoiled paradise he'd seen on TV. That was it. John had to travel. Get out of here, lamp. Bags packed, John was ready to put 5,000 miles between him and his problems, including his luggage. John was so close, he could almost smell the freedom of the skies. Security sent John back through the detector.
Well, let me pass through. What the hell?
John had forgotten he had his nail clippers with him. He'd have to buy another pair soon, or he'd look ridiculous.
I had my nail clippers inside. Someone got dynamite? Ooh.
When the acceleration of takeoff had slackened, John felt a sweet relief. He had left his worries on the runway. He was up in the clouds, on his way to adventure. John's adventure had begun at last, and clearly it was a small world after all, and also a flat one. That was going to piss off the globeheads.
I don't think that's what they meant by experience the wonders. I put in this in your... Oh my god.
John was having fun, but something told him he needed to go home. Probably his empty bank account. John was on his way back home. He was out of money, but money can't buy love. What it can buy are the experiences that had made John a more interesting and developed person, with 100 Butstagram photos to prove it. Finally, everything was going smoothly. John felt good to be back on the familiar ground of home, but he would feel better to be on the familiar mattress of home. That's not John's bag. John really loved a good prick. It took John back to his summer job picking cacti. He hadn't gone back.
Nope. Blood?
Not that one either. Nope. That's probably the right one. Close enough anyway. Despite John's swell of fresh optimism, traveling was exhausting, and he just really wanted to get home and get some sleep.
Obviously, that's going to be my locker. Wow. Ouch.
Another nightmare. John's stress about getting a date for the reunion was making him think of her. Harmony. He hadn't seen her in years. Would she be at the reunion? John shook off the thought. He wasn't a child. He was a fully grown penis.
Okay. So,
John, why is the bathroom barricaded?
Forskin's
What the-
sake! Is that a swan? John had no idea how it had gotten into his home or why it hated him so much. It would probably be best to leave it alone.
dude, can you not? Can you just piss off? Ugh.
John's butt started to buzz. Had he left a vibrator up there? Whatever it was, he should get it out.
Get it out, dude.
John's old phone. They really were indestructible. It was Sam calling.
Oh.
He wanted to check in on John. The travel looked fun, but it was so sudden. Was John
nice.
okay? Sam was such a softie, always worrying about feelings. John had only one feeling, and it was the feeling of being awesome. He could drop Sam a text, but John was on a mission. The reunion was getting closer, and he had to get a date. Fortunately, John knew exactly where to find love. John held his breath. He was about to meet his match. He had to reassure himself he could do this. He had a good job. He had nice stuff. He had traveled. He was ready to find love. On Weena, where all his sexy travel photos would give him the pick of the pack. Too skinny. Too short.
Wilma.
Too much foreskin.
Oh.
Not enough foreskin. Glasses.
Oh, I'm definitely not.
Bangs.
8.
What a loser. Too wide. Nope, nope.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yep, the pick of the pack.
Oh, so we're repeating now. Might as well.
Yes! John had the pick of the pack.
Who the hell is that? Wow.
John valued honesty in a date,
Oh.
but he had been expecting a different kind of dirty.
Yep.
A sexy and much more hygienic kind.
Yep. Hey, yo, stay away from me. Okay, this is nice. Whoa.
John was scared of getting circumcised so late in life.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh, better put that on ice.
Whoa,
It'll be okay, John. Chicks digs cars. I hope.
what the hell is this game?
After the reattachment surgery, the doctors had told John to rest. So he did, for 6 hours.
But look at this dude.
Ugh, salty. Ugh. The date was off to a great start. Don't offer her popcorn, John.
Oh. Enough. Hey, scoot over. Scoot. Excuse me.
John was in stitches.
Well, yep. Single mom? Oh, hell no. What? Do I go inside?
Karen had invited John straight over. She was not fooling around. Very exciting. And now she wanted him round the back.
Get the flowers, douchebag. Why is there poop in your backyard? Not the backyard, but like front yard, whatever. A birthday?
Karen let John know that the cake was only for the kids. So was the candy and the piñata. And that she'd be back in 1 hour.
I love beach picnics and reunions. Reunions? How many reunions do you have?
John laughed at Melody's hilarious bullfrog story. She was adorable. Everything was going perfectly.
Wow.
John never saw Melody again.
Nice.
So far, Weena had been a parade of weirdos and rejections. If this date didn't work out, John vowed to give it up. But maybe this time, maybe today would be his day.
Sharona sighed and said, "You'll do."
You'll do? Wow. At a wedding?
John felt a little underdressed and a lot overwhelmed. He was surrounded by strangers, and Sharona was glaring at the muscular groom. At least John hadn't missed out on the cake.
John realized that Sharona had only brought him to create some penis envy. What a terrible plan, for so many reasons. John got excited. They were going to cut the cake. "He's mine!" Sharona screamed as she launched herself at the newlyweds.
Suddenly, penises were up and yelling, "No, he's mine!" It was a no-holds-barred cockfight.
This is blood.
As John dodged flying glasses and cake, he felt a stab of envy. The groom had dozens of penises after him, and John had none. It was just wrong.
John left the screams and explosions behind him. It was a disastrous end to his online dating. He had tried everything, and it just wasn't good enough. Swans were so simple. If you gave them bread, they liked you. But you can't take a swan to a reunion.
Why not? Ouch, ouch. Oh.
John wanted what that groom had. Love. Real love. The kind that makes penises
Hey, chill
fight
out.
to the death.
Oh, this thing again.
Days later, the question was still bugging John. Why were so many penises in love with the groom? But no one loved John.
It wasn't fair. John deserved attention. He had money and Buttstagram pics of his adventures. He even still had quite a lot of stuff. What did that penis have that John didn't?
Nice.
Then it hit John. That penis was so strong and hard. That's what everyone wanted. That's what John wasn't. That's what John had to be to find love. It was time to hit the gym.
John arrived at his local gym. A part of him couldn't believe he was here. He just wasn't a gym penis. But John had tried everything else. If he wanted to get the perfect date, he'd need to sign up. Sam? What was he doing here? Of course, Sam was married. John's theory was right. If you get muscles, you get love. Out of nowhere, Sam asked John how he was doing. Really doing. For a moment, John wanted to be honest. But he didn't come to gym to be a softie. John was here to get hard. It was John's first time in a gym since school. He tried not to read too much into that. Sam went on ahead with a chipper promise to meet up with John inside. John had two options. He could try month by month, or if he signed the 10-year Big Muscles Big Savings contract, he'd get a free easy squeezy water bottle. John wasn't a sucker. He knew the importance of hydration. The gym's clean peen pool policy meant that John would have to do something he had never done before. Get naked in front of strangers. Maybe he could set a record for speediest cleanse.
Been there.
Naked, John could feel the blanket of steam intimately against his private parts. John pretended he was alone and not surrounded by wrinkly, wet cocks. What was John nervous about? That he would be laughed at? There was nothing funny about a naked penis. Very fetching, John. It even matches your tan lines. Time to conquer the pool. Sam enthusiastically greeted John and offered to show him around, obviously not realizing that John was a natural athlete. The pool was like baptism, the icy water washing away John's flabby flab. He found his stroke, gliding through the water like an eel with large, ungainly testicles. This wasn't hard. John couldn't believe Peens actually got gold medals just for splashing around. Maybe he could become an Olympian. He was slowing down a bit, flailing a bit, but John pushed on, knowing that looking good in a Speedo was the only thing that could save him from an empty existence. John wanted to take a break, forever. The pool was not his friend. It was not the blissful wet dream of his fantasies. It was a hellish prison of murderous fluid determined to drown him. No wonder life crawled out of the sea, desperate to escape the water. Done. John had not drowned, but more importantly, he had not quit. Time to hit the weight room. John's muscles bunched and bulged. The time in the gym was already paying off. Fresh from conquering the pool, John felt ready for anything the gym could throw at him, even heavy metal weights. Clearly, John knew how to handle equipment. Sam cheered John on, as if he needed it. Adrenaline coursed through John's veins, his butthole clenched like a fist. John was forging himself into the peen he saw on movie screens, bulging and sweat-slicked, hard and shiny. Boom! John was cocked and loaded. Didn't Sam ever get out of breath? The stream of encouragement was exhausting. John, getting flung from fast-moving objects since preschool. Slow and steady. That's right, John. Like a lover. Or pouring gravy. Like the sweet sound of spaghetti and meatballs hitting a wall. That had gotten John's heart rate up and his life expectancy down. John was sweating like a senator on a sex tape, but he wasn't done. John took a deep breath, clenched, and pulled. Sam made this look so easy. John squashed the thought. He'd just have to push harder. John tried to make eye contact with Sam, get in his head a bit. Sam didn't seem to notice John, but John could tell Sam was impressed. Even though he still hadn't looked at John, not that it mattered to John, because John was in the zone, deep in the zone. With the sound of a deflating truck tire, John's sphincter gave out. Sam congratulated John for trying and told him it was okay to take things slow, as if John was going to quit. Well, he wasn't. John had a mission, and the reunion was getting closer.
I cannot believe I'm actually invested in this story at this point. That's the weirdest part for me. Wow. Wow. Can you not? But what kind of school is this? No, don't cut me in half. Oh. Oh. Nope, nope, nope. I hate this. Definitely mine. Ouch. Wow. Wow. Nice. Obviously, I shouldn't have done that. Wow. Wow. What the hell is going on? Hey, move. Hey, hey. What the hell was that supposed to impress her? That's sad. Oh. Okay, what the hell is this?
As soon as John woke up, the mirror called to him. His abs looked like a pack of vacuum-sealed hot dogs. Tasty. Jim had remade John into a sculpted Adongus. He was finally everything a peen should be: successful, traveled, and photogenic. It was time for his morning pre-gym workout. The reunion invitation caught John's eye. He read it again and again, stunned. He'd gotten the date wrong. Very wrong. The reunion was tonight. Tonight! He'd have to go alone. They'd all be there, and they'd look at John and they'd know he was still a loser. No, there was still time. John needed a date fast. He'd have to go out. He'd have to make an impact. John had to dress his best, only better. Is this sending the right message? Oh my, John. Welcome to the gun show. There had
got
to
the
be
ring.
someone
Oh.
single and
Oh.
desperately alone in the city. Someone besides John. He just had to find them.
Ouch.
John went straight to the nearest bar. Sure, it was still early, but he couldn't waste any time. There must be some day drinkers he could pick up.
Hey, what the hell?
It was a classy place. Even the vomit was high quality. The bouncer looked like a hagfish that had taken up lacrosse.
The what?
John stepped into the bar and saw her. The answer to the question, what was John's purpose? Her. Loving her. Being with her. Taking her to the reunion. Their eyes met and John knew she felt the same. Gladys did not feel the same. But John wasn't going to give up on their life together. A couple of drinks would loosen her up to their destiny. Wow. Gladys was not an amateur when it came to drinking. John had to keep up. It was working. Gladys was definitely warming up to John. John's bladder was very full. It sloshed audibly as he moved.
What the hell?
Holy balls! John had never felt such relief.
Wow. Wow. Oh.
If only John could wash off the embarrassment like he washed off the urine. John looked around. Gladys was gone. John cursed his petite bladder. The bored bartender shrugged and told John Gladys had left because some creep was trying to get her drunk. The bar was empty. The creep must have left too. It was clear the cockpit was on autopilot. Time for John to hit the next bar. John's anxiety had sunk under the surface of the beer he'd drunk, while his confidence was floating high. This was the place he'd find love. It was empty, except for the bartender. Clearly this bar's only special was unhappy hour. 2 for 1 was a good deal though, and so far the beer had lifted John's spirits. Another 4 would make him feel twice as good. The bartender gave John a smile that set his heart hammering. He had to impress her.
What was so offensive about
Right.
offering a big tip in exchange for a date? John had thought bartenders loved tips.
He needed to find a better club, one with a vibe. John was drawn by the pulse of the music. It pulled him forward like a moth to a fiery death. John was running out of time to find a date and prove that he wasn't a loser. Dancing, the real way to flirt. The way of animals, of wild sexual creatures. John strutted and shook his booty. With booze buzzing round his head, John found himself on the dance floor. Everyone was up close and sweaty. John was exhilarated. He felt alive. John was working himself up to try a little bump and grind. It was a moment out of a movie. John alone on the dance floor with a gorgeous penis, their sexual chemistry exploding. She moved away, coyly. John could tell when someone was playing hard to get. He let her marinate in the tension before making his move. John wasn't taking no for an answer.
Wow.
Some people have no sense of fun, but John was certain the next bar would be different. The next bar wasn't
The what?
different. John couldn't understand why everyone was so sensitive. It was like no one wanted to have a good time. Like no one had a sense of humor. John had meant that as a compliment. When did the world get so uptight? John's ego was as bruised as his shaft. He had to admit it. He'd failed. He was where he belonged. Oh, that's gross. It smells like rotting dick yogurt. John's misery was sour in his mouth. He needed a drink to wash it down. There was still one bar he hadn't been kicked out of yet. John had cleaned himself up as much as possible. He really needed a mint. John got it in, but he needed more to satisfy the machine. Nailed it. John let out his anger, his frustration. Life was a shitty joke. It wasn't fair. You want to mess with John? Do you? This is what you get. Fuck you, you fucking thing. You had one job. Die, 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 die! It's not fair. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. That's how you get what you want. Ugh, menthol. John wanted the strongest drink they had. Rough night? Someone asked John.
He hadn't noticed her when he came in, but now he did. Destiny had given him a second chance. John made his move. Unfortunately, according to Alice and to her boyfriend Chadrick, it was the wrong move.
Wow.
Chadrick threw John into the alley and followed, making unoriginal but still terrifying threats. Oh my God! Get him, John! I can't watch. Don't hold back! Give it to him! John had survived. No, he'd won. He'd won! He'd won! He wasn't a loser. And there was the proof lying in a bruised, bloody heap. John didn't need a date to the reunion. He needed to go over there and beat the pre-cum out of those dicks. High school reunion, the perfect time to teach someone a lesson.
How? Okay.
The doors of the school, a sight John had dreaded every day for years, and now he was going willingly through them, unafraid, fueled by years of unprocessed anger fermented in loneliness. John was back! The chickens were coming home to roost, and they were all cocks. Whoa, John, save it for the bullies. These were the peanlets he'd grown up with, now with jobs and marriages and beer bellies. John was surprised at how ordinary they had all turned out.
Get in there! What the hell?
Take off the pain, buddy. Careful.
I cannot see myself.
Fight back, John! Dodge!
Where the hell am I?
Ow! Pow!
John poured his anger into every punch.
Whoa! That's the stuff, John. Don't let up.
How do you like that? Ha! Who's a loser now? Who? Ha! John had won. He'd won. No one could say John was a loser now.
Go John, I guess.
John's primal joy faded as he saw how the other penises looked at him. Not like a winner, like he was trash.
A small
John
price to
tumbled
pay.
down the
Pay
steps,
for his salvation.
hitting every bruise on his length and his ego. It was her, Harmony. She had been at the reunion,
She'd seen it all and followed John out. To laugh at him more? No, to see if he was all right. Why did that hurt John so much? This was John's chance to ask her why all those years ago she'd said to him, "No one will ever love you." Harmony stared at John in shock. How could John not know why? Didn't John remember what he'd done?
What did I do? What have I done? He pushed too hard, is that it? Oh. Sure, I like this.
There was nothing Sam enjoyed more than the fresh air of an early morning. The dew sparkling on the grass, the music of the trees, space to think. What was that smell? It made Sam's eye water. It was John, passed out and crusted with vomit and regret. John was awake and tolerably clean. Sam tried to be gentle and invited John to join him on his walk.
Sam coaxed John along. It was like herding compost. John couldn't answer Sam's questions yet. How had he ended up such a wreck? If only John could fly away from his pain as easily. John's stink had given Sam a headache too. The throbbing ache dulled. John was feeling much more himself, and he realized that was not what he wanted to feel. Even that bit of senseless destruction couldn't cheer
What
John
the
up.
hell is happening?
Sam saw his friend's misery. He suggested they keep going. John wanted to know something. Why didn't anyone love him? As soon as he said it, he felt like a softie, whining about his feelings. But Sam didn't make fun of him. Sam asked him to go on. And so John told him the whole story about how hard he'd made himself and how unfair it felt, and everything he'd done. Saying it out loud, John realized he'd sounded like an asshole. But he'd done everything right. Why didn't he get what he wanted? Why didn't John get love? Wanting someone isn't the same as loving them, said Sam. You'll figure it out, John. But you have to keep trying. How about a bike ride? Sam asked. John struggled to get his balance, but Sam told him not to give up. John kept trying, getting better as they went. John and Sam stopped and looked at the sunset. For a moment, John let himself be quiet and listen to the world and look at how beautiful it could be.
Not gonna lie, the story grew on me.
Life can be hard, said Sam, but that doesn't mean we have to be.
I like this game. Dude, move. Right, so I guess that was it. Played a new game, completed it. Not much to talk about it. It's going to, it might get demonetized or blocked, copyrighted, I don't know. Anyway, so I'm not going to promote anything. See you in the next stream. Bye bye.